Hey everybody, this is Andrea Jenson from the Cash Flow CFO, and you're listening to the Cash Flow CFO Podcast, the show that explores the financial side of running a business for people who want to maximize profitability and scale with confidence. If you want to make smart financial decisions based on data and put more of your hard-earned profits into your pocket, this is the podcast for you. This episode of the Cash Flow CFO podcast is brought to you by the Cash Flow CFO. Did you know that on average, business owners have up to 84% of their personal net worth tied up in their business? Our virtual CPAs and CFOs, as well as accounting and bookkeeping experts, empower business owners just like you to make big leaps that help them maximize profitability and scale with confidence. Visit thecashflowcfo.com for more information, and thank you for listening. Hey everyone, it's Andrea, and our guest for today is Dr. Valerie Rein. Dr. Val is a psychologist who has discovered Patriarchy Stress Disorder, Ph.D., and created the only science-backed system for helping women achieve their ultimate success, happiness, and fulfillment by healing this intergenerational trauma of oppression. She holds an EDM in psychological counseling from Columbia University and a Ph.D. in psychology from the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. Her best-selling book, Patriarchy Stress Disorder, The Invisible Barrier to Women's Happiness and Fulfillment, has been heralded by reviewers as the most important book, the important body of literary work of our modern times, and perhaps the most important book of the century for women. Her mission is creating a thriving world by healing generational trauma with Thriving Method event. Welcome to the show, Val.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to be talking with you. We've known each other for quite a few years now, and I've had the opportunity to really learn about the work that you do and just all the amazing goodness that goes that's weaved into that, if you will. But I'd love for our listeners and viewers to have this opportunity to get to know you, number one. So why don't we start a little bit back from the beginning? I'd love to know, how did you get started in this type of work?
Well, I think it started way back when I did not even think about what I was going to be when I grew up. My entire journey was defined by one question: what's wrong with me? I was just trying to figure that out. And eventually it led me on the path of studying psychology, of course. And just to give you an idea what a challenging case I was, I didn't stop at one graduate degree. I went for 2 and years of therapy, and nothing was actually answering that question. So I was baffled. I didn't understand why, despite all my accomplishments and going for my dreams and having a really good life. At that point, I had a thriving private practice, doing the work I loved. I had a beautiful family, a lovely home in New York City suburbs. Didn't understand why, despite having it all, I was still dealing with this little, or sometimes big, divine dissatisfaction. Right? Was I too greedy or ungrateful? What else did I want? And it was really quite a disheartening state of affairs, because I could come to the conclusion that something is so wrong with me that I will never feel truly free, fulfilled, and happy, no matter what wonderful things I had in my life. And that's kind of where I was leaning, because I've also tried it all. I've taken every personal development workshop. I have read every self-help book I could get my hands on. And then through grace, through this fool's journey of stumbling from one thing to the next, I ended up taking a workshop. Actually, it was a retreat of working with the body through yoga practices to resolve anxiety and depression. I thought I was taking it for professional reasons, some other tools for my toolbox. What I did not anticipate was that during the workshop, using these yogic practices, my body would be releasing something deeply held that I had no idea was there. And what was being released didn't have a story. It didn't have an intellectual kind of explanation. But I came back from that retreat completely different. And I was so different that I didn't recognize myself. I came back to work. I was working at a university at the time. And my boss called me in for her usual listing a list of grievances with me. And this time, what was different was I heard her completely differently. I was like, why? Why am I in this place where my boss is being emotionally abusive, where I feel really constrained and constricted? And so instead of just taking it like I would, I let her finish. I got up, I put my hand on the door handle, I opened it, I walked out and went to my computer, typed up a mail to the HR, and I left. The morning of the day I would quit my dream job, I had no idea that was going to happen. But that's just one example of what becomes possible when we transform inside, when the old traumas that we may not even realize we carry begin to resolve. Our decision making is different. We can use our emotions for information, not just as a symptom that keeps us going and going and going in the cycle of distress. So that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, interestingly enough.
I love it. I love it. So this was something that you mentioned. You said you didn't even know that this wound you were healing, in essence, was there. So on the surface, you had no recollection of it happening or things like that.
Yeah, I kept going to therapists and digging for things like, oh, tell me about your mother, tell me about your father. And I was thinking, well, maybe I forgot. Maybe something bad happened to me, which I didn't remember. And what I know now that I didn't know then, because we have all this research in the field of epigenetics that came out in the past couple of decades that tells us that traumatic experiences are genetically transmitted. So what I was carrying in my body, the bulk of it wasn't even mine. It was something I inherited, but that was not the frame at the time. And even now, it's not exactly something every therapist would go to. So I feel that this is a huge missing link to our happiness and fulfillment, to unpack, okay, what is it that is truly holding us back from our most amazing life experience? And oftentimes it doesn't have words, it doesn't have a story, but our body is the most accurate storybook or history book out there. The body carries it and remembers it and can give us access to healing it.
Yeah, that is amazing. What pops into my head immediately is, I work with money all day long, and I work with different types of business owners and their capacity to, manage and do the dance through the energy of money, their decision-making capacity, their risk tolerance, their, just ability to hold money, things like that. I'm thinking that there's probably what you're talking about in a different form having to do with money, as well as, things that they don't even know why they do what they do.
Oh my gosh, money is such a huge area. A story that I told in my book, and it was a painful one to unpack and really own up to what that was about, was when I arrived at the end of my marriage. It was a painful moment for so many reasons, infinite reasons. And when I was going through the separation, I realized that I had no money. I was like, wait a second. What happened? I had been working and making a good salary, making good living. How did that happen that I didn't have savings, that money were just slipping through my fingers? And now understanding what I understand now was, oh my gosh, as women, and of course, nothing applies to everyone across the board because we've all had different stories and different ways of dealing with things. But in general, we inherited a lot of programming when it comes to our relationships with money. And yes, we deal with it differently, right? And we've done different amounts of work to resolve that. For me, I was not aware of it. Before I got married, I was actually really good with money. I was living on my own, making some good investments, some not so good investments, but I was taking risks and reaping rewards. Then I got married, and it's like I fell asleep at the wheel. It's like Sleeping Beauty taking a bite out of the patriarchy poisoned apple. That programming kicked in that as a married woman, my man was supposed to be at the helm, driving our family relationship with money, spending and saving. And so I just completely checked out. I had no idea what was going on. And that was so painful to look back on, and now drives a lot of my passion in helping women recognize when this relationship with money is shaped by intergenerational collective traumas, programming, so that we can reclaim it, so we can clarify it, so we can be sovereign and have a really great, mutually supportive relationship with money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, if you just look at history and go back just a few generations, right? 100 years ago, women couldn't even vote. They couldn't have a checkbook. They couldn't, fast forward 50 years, they couldn't go get a bank loan. They had to have a male sign on the loan, things like that. Like that's
Yes,
not
up
that
until
far ago.
not that long ago, up until the mid 80s. That's when women actually started to be able to get a credit card in their own name or get
Crazy.
any other kind of a line of credit without a male relative cosigner. That's
Mhm.
recent history.
Yeah. So you think, when in your body of work, right, when you're talking about these generational inherited things, how far back do they go? Or can they go? Or
Mhm.
have you seen?
Yeah, there are a couple of perspectives on this that I want to bring into the conversation. One is an indigenous perspective, where a lot of indigenous cultures look at 7 generations, the impact of the 7 generations before us and our actions in the present impacting 7 generations going forward. I love this perspective. I feel it's very wise. It gets us to make different decisions, take responsibility in different ways. As far as quote unquote hard science goes in the epigenetics field, I'm not familiar with studies that they've done for that many generations. There are a lot of studies that have been 3 or 4 generations deep, and they've seen unequivocally that transmission of trauma and programming. This particular study that I discovered when I was working on the book had to do with mice and cherry blossoms. In this study, researchers introduced the smell of cherry blossoms to mice while simultaneously zapping their feet with mild electric shocks. They then bred the mice, and their children and their grandchildren, when exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms, showed a strong fear and anxiety reaction.
Wow.
And the researchers were able to see the brain changes, and they were able to see the transmission of these genetic markers from generation to generation. So goes to show we don't have to even know the stories or the experiences that happened to our grandparents, great grandparents, etc. These are survival mechanisms and information that is passed down genetically. We literally evolve to survive. And for women, this evolution sadly has been along the lines of survival under the patriarchy. That means don't be too visible, right? Don't be too outspoken. Don't be too powerful. That was not even on the menu for women. And so now we are living in the world of so many opportunities that we have. And oftentimes the risk aversion that you're talking about, that is also a survival adaptation. Women, like we know from studies also that women are better investors. They're better traders. Women are actually, as far as data shows, when women do venture into working with money in these conscious ways, we do very well. However, the programming, the trauma programming that is in the subconscious is holding us back oftentimes from really exercising our financial power. And when we're aware of it, then we can work with it. We can work with the nervous system. We can work with the subconscious so that we can reclaim that financial sovereignty, among other delightful things.
Mm-hmm.
Start scaling with confidence today. The Cash Flow CFO is a full-service accounting and fractional CFO firm. So it goes without saying that our financial experts are phenomenal at number crunching. But more than that, they are expert communicators who will connect all those complicated financial dots in a way that just makes sense. We don't wait in the wings and check in every so often either. With our boutique approach, we position ourselves front and center, watching over every dollar that comes in and out of your business as if it was our own. So if your business is making money and you're ready to take it to the next level, but you're not sure you completely understand your numbers, and you're looking for that trusted guide to help you build a roadmap to reach your financial goals, it sounds like we would be a great fit. Visit thecashflowcfo.com and let's get started empowering you to build and scale your business the way you want to today.
And you work with a lot of business owners who are trying to find that harmony between growing a successful, profitable, healthy business and also butting up against kind of the ceiling, if you will, right? Of, I think you say, how good can it get? How good can I stand it? Right. And I love that you say that, because I think that's so real for everybody. And you don't realize that there's a thermostat in your brain that when it gets too good, you're like, oh, let's sabotage, whether it's big or small, to get back down to that comfort level. I'd love if you could talk a little bit about what you've seen and how maybe some tools or things that you work with your clients on to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrea. I love that we're going there. And I've seen so much kind of like across the spectrum of this happening. On the one hand, I have seen and heard this feedback about doing this work. One of my favorite is when a woman is discovering, oh my gosh, I have been working so hard to play smaller than I'm capable of. A woman begins to realize, I'm thinking about one of our clients here who just had this mind-blowing realization, and the results in her business of this work have been multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. And that was after she realized that most of her energy was being spent on keeping herself, quote unquote, safe from this increased visibility and success and abundance. And so little by little, we started working on increasing her capacity for going there and having it. Right? How good can it get? And then with each level, the work would need to be, okay, how do we stabilize this? How do we make this ceiling your new floor? How do we make this success your normal? Because of course we want that consciously, but our subconscious with those trauma imprints, until they are resolved, the subconscious perceives it as unsafe. And although we welcome success, the subconscious, as you reflected, is seeking to sabotage it in some ways. And maybe it's even not in the ways that have to do with your business. You may continue doing well in the business, but the sabotage may creep up in how you're feeling inside. Maybe there's an increase in anxiety. Maybe you have trouble sleeping. Maybe you are always on edge and irritable and you don't even know why, because everything is good, right? Your life is good. The kids are good. Work is good. And that inner state is exhausting. And to me, like, this is not a full package of success. To me, if we're only seeing business growth, but you're not feeling amazing, like, right, we can do much better than that. We truly can have it all. And this work, using the thriving method that works with the mind, with the body, with generational stuff, as long as the current time stuff, has been showing really kind of, it can get so much better in every area of our life, and we don't have to sacrifice one for quote unquote success in another. And speaking of the tools and practices, I like to start with a little assessment. It's so simple, but it can be confronting. And the assessment is like, anybody can do it right here, right now, just listening to it and dropping in that question. I would start by taking a few breaths, getting into this more relaxed, more meditative state, and dropping in the question into your heart space. And the question is, what is my heart's desire? And you will notice your mind throw this and that for discussion. Acknowledge that, and then come back to the breath and come back to that investigation. What is my heart's desire? And you may notice that underneath the things that you should want, there is something else. There is something bigger, maybe surprising. Maybe it feels too bold to really acknowledge, or maybe it feels outside your reach, or you may be feeling like I did. Am I being too greedy or too ungrateful? Like, what else do I want? My life is good. But that desire, it wants to be honored. It wants to take us to the next level of how good can it get. So you may start getting in touch with that desire and a little anxiety or nervousness around that, or you may be getting nothing. And that too is information, because these desires are so quote unquote dangerous from the point of view of our subconscious, because they can disrupt things, and who knows what's the next level of how good can it get. Are we putting ourselves in danger by increased visibility, wealth, success, how good we feel? And that's why those defenses exist that literally block us from getting in touch with those desires. So there's nothing wrong if you're running into a block. It is information, okay? There is something there that is probably very big, exciting, quote unquote, dangerous, disruptive, that can take me to the next level. And it's well protected, of course. All right, now I know what my next step would be to work with this protection. And in the thriving method, we would use tools for regulating the nervous system so that we can be with that and not freak out and not go into fight, flight, freeze. And at the same time, reprogramming our subconscious from, oh, this is dangerous, to, okay, let's actually come into the here and now and assess what is dangerous now and what is not dangerous. Because with money, for example, it is much more dangerous to not be making money than to be making money, right? So we have to reprogram a lot of that inherited stuff. That is in our subconscious. That is not something we consciously believe, but we can see it express in our behaviors, in our feelings, in our bank accounts, areas like that.
Absolutely. I love that you're bringing this, into the conversation, and you're, everybody should go and get a copy of the book because it's amazing, right? And it's something that, just in this tiny little conversation that we've had, I think a lot of light bulbs go off of like, oh, that could be why, or, oh, I feel like that sometimes, or, oh, there's a lot of little things that you might be getting nudges on. And this is something to explore for sure. And I think it's so, our listeners, right, we talk about cash flow, we talk about business, we talk about money and wealth and things like that. But, when we talk about how good can it get, we work with a lot of business owners that come in and they're not profitable in their business. And my question to them is like, why bother? And it's confronting, right? It's they're just in that do without stopping to kind of step back and go, oh yeah, you're right. Why bother? There's a million ways I could be allocating my time, my resources, my energy. This might not be the right way. And so it's subtle shifts in a business model. For you, it's subtle shifts in the programming, or, and just profound effects, happen when you do that, or you work with someone that can kind of be that guide for you. And
yeah, you and I should work together. It's really, we need tweaks in the business systems and strategies and the inner stuff to allow for that to happen. Right? Yep. It's all confronting.
It is. They say the best personal development that you can do is to be a business owner, because you get every little facet of who you are and what you want to do and how you do it. It's very confronting as a business owner. And so,
I agree with you. Like the three crucibles: parenting, partnership, and business.
Entrepreneurship.
Where all our patterns come out to play.
Yeah. I completely see that happening. That's amazing. So some of the, we're in different business groups together, high level women's business groups. And I love when you, we'll be in a group conversation, for example, and you'll bring up different therapies or different modalities that you're exploring. And I think the last time you were talking about you're doing equine therapy as part of your delivery, right? And I'd love to know a little bit more. How's that going, and what big ahas have you learned from adding that in?
Oh my gosh, Andrea! So I have horses here on my mug. I have my herd. Yeah, we'll need so much time to talk about all the magic. Let me see how I can kind of do it justice in a like small package, in a nutshell. Horses and the work that we do is on the ground without restraint. So we are meeting each other as equals on the ground together in a safe space. And what happens is horses don't have stories. Of course, we can still make up stories about horses, but then we can also realize, wait a minute, am I making up a story here? And when we're operating outside of stories, horses can reflect to us very clearly how we are showing up, because they read our energy, they read our presence, and that's how we communicate in a sentient manner with one another. For example, I can be there with a horse and I would be asking the horse to move, or I would be inviting the horse to come with me for a walk. Again, no restraints, no lead ropes, nothing like that. And I would so clearly see, the horse will show me, am I being effective in my communication? Am I embodying my goal? Up here in my mind, I may be thinking, oh yeah, I'm very clear. And the horse wants nothing to do with me. Like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not exactly in my body. Maybe my energy is not aligned with my thinking. And I feel as leaders, we need that assessment, because people around us, we're all full of stories and we're very smart. Like, I don't know about you, I can BS with any therapist or coach, right? Like just tell stories upon stories. And with horses, there's not such opportunity. There is clarity. And I really appreciate that immediate assessment, immediate feedback. And right there in that moment, oh, okay, I wasn't asking clearly. I wasn't in my body. What is going on? How do I need to shift? And then I take this into my communication with humans. And actually, sometimes I pretend that humans are horses, especially in challenging situations when I'm like, ooh, like, wait a second. If that human was a horse, how would I approach it? So, and that places me in a whole different, whole different place of patience, of observing, feeling their energy, checking my energy, not getting lost in the story. So lots of magic has been unfolding along those lines.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I absolutely love dogs, and I've never had the opportunity to be, in an intimate setting with a horse, but I think that I would absolutely fall in love with them too. Just, yep.
Absolutely.
So cool. So cool. Well, you have shared so much amazing information, and I'm sure for some of our audience, it's the first time they've heard this topic of discussion. So I'd love to give them some resources to continue to dig deeper into that if they choose, and learn more about what you do and the amazing work and how you help guide people through a process that can really be life changing for them.
Thank you. I really see these transformations that happen for women. We primarily work with women. I believe in women's leadership. I feel these transformations change the world, right? So they're not to be taken lightly. Your impact is vast, right? In your family, in your community, and how you work with your clients, how you show up. So a good place to start would be drvalerie.com/book. If you'd like to download that first chapter of the book, check it out or purchase the book, and see if there are breadcrumbs there for you to be helpful on your journey. I'm sure you've tried a lot of things in the past. We're all seekers. If you're listening to this show, you are definitely a seeker and a learner. And I love working with people who've tried a lot of things, because then we just insert the missing links and then things just go, right? That must be very rewarding in your work as well, Andrea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We talk about generation, right? Generational wealth, generational, and Annie in our group put it so eloquently. She said, my ceiling is becoming my daughter's floor. And that generation is just going to continue on. And that's, the work that we do. We're building a business that is solid foundationally, financially, that's going to be able to do that. And your component of the work too is that internal piece. We can pull all the levers and change all the things in the business model, but if you can't hold that success, then you're just going to be in that hamster wheel of achieving, losing it, achieving, losing it, and gosh, we don't ever want to see anyone in that place. So
hold it and enjoy it, right?
Yes.
Enjoy it, which
Absolutely.
sometimes it gets overlooked. Like, as long as the metrics are there, like, our happiness is not always among the metrics that we're tracking. And I believe it needs to be.
Yeah, that's one. It's funny you say that, because when we're doing, we call it a revenue matrix, and we look at all the different revenue streams, the cost to produce them. We look at the margins, and then we go, all right, which ones do you like? Do they match? And a lot of clients go, what do you mean, do I like it? I'm like, well, yeah, you have to like it. You do. You need to be profitable and you need to like it. Otherwise, why do it? So, yes, I completely agree with that.
I love your assessment so much. Everybody should go through an assessment like this.
Yeah. It's it kind of opens your eyes to, as I think as business owners, you just build. And a lot of people don't take the time to assess where they're at, and does it make sense to keep going in that way or make changes. They just head down and just go, go, go. Then they wake up 20 years later. They don't have a business that's an asset that can be transferred, leveraged, sold. They might have been banking on that for retirement. And then they realize, oh, it's not as valuable as I thought it was, so they, so many things are so important in life and business. Stop, pick your head up, look around, assess, quantify, qualify, and then, make it better that next version and keep going like that. So
how good can it get?
That's right. I love it. That's my theme for 2024. How good can it get?
Right there with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been an absolute enjoyment to have you on. And I'm so excited for our audience to get to know you more and dive into all the tools that you have and have developed through your own, studying of yourself, and you're able to give that back as a gift now. So it's amazing.
I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope it is helpful to others as well. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So everybody go check out those links. We'll have them in the show notes as well. And as always, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and review, and we'll catch you on the next episode. If you're looking for more content or resources in the meantime, check out our website for information, blogs, and our I've Got a Spreadsheet for That series. That's thecashflowcfo.com. Again, thecashflowcfo.com. We can't wait to hear from you.